I'm going to talk about children's wagons one more time. And I'm going to show you my steering linkage improvement for the Harbor Freight Bigfoot Panel Wagon that in the last week I installed Harbor Freight's Steel Deck Garden Wagon suspension underneath. For a greatly improved suspension. I show that modification in a two-part video, and I show the resulting Bigfoot Panel Wagon in another video. I talk about how the new wagon pulls and handles. In true Stiles Automotive fashion, where I can't leave well enough alone, I'm going to improve this wagon's steering linkage. I do mostly automotive work. I have many other videos showing general automotive work, modifications, and tips. If you find this video helpful, consider subscribing and watching the other videos. To subscribe, just click the Stiles Automotive icon. I'm going to replace this flat bar steering linkage with a spherical rod end on each end. So I'm going to replace the single linkage with two individual linkages, one on each side, with 4 spherical rod end bearings. These are the 4 5/16 rod ends that I'm going to use. Rod ends are available in both standard and high misalignment configurations, and rod ends are available in both left and right hand threads. They're available in standard or heavy duty versions. Standard rod ends have a shank size equal to the bore, or shank size, this end, equal to the bore, and that's what this is. These are just standard 5/16 cheap ones. Heavy duty rod ends, however, feature a shank that's 1/16 of an inch larger than the bore diameter. The proper way to install a rod end is in double shear, like I show on this cutaway drawing. If you don't use double shear to mount your rod ends, good engineering practice uses a large, appropriately sized washer under the bolt head in case of spherical bearing separation. Stay with me on the video and I'll show you how I plan to incorporate double shear mounts into both ends of my 2 new linkages. Here is my first linkage. I've got it set up so it's just long enough for where it's at now, but I'm not going to do that. I need to shorten it a little more. I'm going to drill a hole here and here. I'm not going to have a single point of failure at this bolt. I'm not going to do this and double it up, or like this, and have it on the other side. What I'm going to do is drill 2 holes and have it sit side by side like this. And then what I was talking about before, I'll show you what I've done to make it double shear instead of single shear. And I'm just going to use a washer, a fender washer on the outside here, to instead of trying to do something to make it double shear on the outside. When I drilled my 2 holes here, I didn't leave a lot of meat right here and here, which I'm not real happy about. I could have moved the holes up here, but I wanted this throw to be as long as possible and still maintain this distance here. So I went a little bit longer, which I thought would be better than going a little bit shorter. We'll see how it works out. I could always re-drill up here and get away from this hole a little bit, but to compensate for that little bit of material right there, to make my spherical bearing captive on the top, instead of just using a washer, I'm going to use a flat bar plate. And I'll clean this up a little bit and paint it, but this is going to help keep the two captive, and it's going to make it not quite like a double shear, but at least the bearings will be captive, and it'll be better than just using a washer. So I'm going to mount that to the top like this. And again, I need to adjust my length on this, so I'm not going to hook it up to my spindle yet. Have a longer bolt plan for the center here. This one isn't quite long enough. And then a heavier duty stainless steel lock nut to go here. These are kind of shallow. These are what came with the garden wagon, or the Steel Mesh garden wagon. So I'll replace that with a better nut, a longer bolt, both stainless steel. This is what I ended up with for my steering linkage. I started with a 5/16 steel rod that's zinc coated. I cut off a 3 1/4 inch piece, and then I threaded each end, an inch of each end, with a 5/16 by 24 die that threads into my rod ends. Before I threaded it, I hit it on the buffing wheel to clean it up, give it more of a shiny finish, more of a chrome looking finish. I don't know how long that'll last on zinc, but it's going to start out looking new. I also have a plate for the top, so this will go on the top underneath the tongue, and it'll make my two spherical bearings captive on the top. So two 5/16 stainless steel bolts, coarse thread, will go on the top, up underneath, through the tongue, and then a washer and self-locking nut on the bottom. Just doing a trial fit. I'm pretty happy with that. Of course, good engineering practice leaves two threads exposed beyond a self-locking nut, and my 1 inch bolt on this side is a little bit too short, so I need to go with a 1 1/4 inch bolt like I did in the other 3 places. But I'll have to replace that. But I'm just trial fitting it right now anyway. And I think I need to make my individual linkages just a little bit longer, so it toes in just a hair. Looks like it's towed out just a bit, but now it's adjustable, so I can do that if I want to. But I'm pretty happy with that. And it's got to take it back apart so I can do these two bearings. Let me show you one other thing that bothers me, and that is on the tongue here. Harbor Freight has an almost 9mm, it's really close to a 9mm stud here. Of course, this looks like it's painted, so I need to take that paint off, and maybe it's an 8mm, but my hole is 10mm, so that's a lot of slop. So my other garden wagon, which is from Northern Supply, has a very similar attachment point for the tongue, and it doesn't have this kind of slop. So look, when I raise and lower the tongue, look at the amount of slop that I have. This joint really should have had a bushing in it. This joint on the top with an 8mm bolt doesn't really have the slop like that does down there. So you go back and put a bronze or a brass bushing in that. So you just use a 8mm inside diameter with a flanged bushing, and 10mm outside would probably work good. I think I'm going to leave this modification to another video, and well, I'll show that I put bearings in here instead of just the bushings. So let me show you one other thing that I discovered as I'm working on this. This side, the right hand side, as the wagon is upright, this isn't too bad. It's got a little bit of slop right here, you can see that, and not much down here in this joint, this interface point. But look at the left side. Look at how much slop there is here at this interface point, and there's a little bit down here where this weld-on plate meets the spindle shaft there. That's gonna bother me. I wasn't planning on doing anything there, and my other Chinese made garden wagon isn't near this sloppy. So I don't know if this wagon, well, the other wagon was from Northern Tool, I believe, and a long time ago, and this one is from Harbor Freight. So I don't know if this was made on a Chinese Monday or what happened here, but that's definitely a lot of slop. Hopefully that's a regular hole that's there and it's not cut with a torch or something. Wouldn't surprise me, but hopefully it's just a drilled hole. But why would there be so much slop there? And why wouldn't they be drilling the same size hole in all these? I suppose they could be using some kind of a jig, and somebody on this side is drilling these two holes and somebody with a different drill is on that side. I don't know. Look for another video, I guess, because that's going to bother me. My friends all know that that'll bother me, and there'll probably end up being a modification done there in the future. So I want to go back to the linkage and show you the adjustment on that. You want to adjust the two linkages with a little bit of toe in, and I'll show you why. So you want to adjust your two new linkages. So if you go all the way to one side or the other, if you don't have enough toe adjusted into it, toe in adjusted into it, this will go past here, and well, on this side it'll go past here, it'll go past center, and it can get stuck there. So notice how I've got it just about in line, straight in line, with just a little bit of push that way. That's what you want. You want to keep a little bit of push. So see me binding right here? So I need to almost come underneath the wagon and push that joint that way to get it to unlock. So you want to adjust those arms long enough so that they don't do that. So I don't know if you can see that with the tire in the way here, but this one is a lot better, in a lot better shape. See how it's not straight right here? That's much better than the other side. So I could actually go a little bit longer on the other side, toe it in a little bit more, or you could form some kind of a stop here so you can't turn too far. You could put a bolt in somewhere here or make some kind of a bump stop. But you don't really have to do that as long as you dial in enough toe in. Here's the method for a quick alignment check. Just use a broom handle, or in this case I'm using a paint roller extension, lay it along the wheel and tire assembly, and then come out to the tongue and measure the distance between the broom handle and the wagon's handle, and then do that for both sides and make them so they're even or close, and then just go pull the wagon around and see how it tracks. If it tracks okay, you're good. Now if you toe in too much, you're going to wear your tires out, but I don't plan on wearing these tires out probably in in 20 years, so I'm not really worried about that. But a little bit of toe in helps the wagon track straight. So the wagon should be a better pulling wagon after adjusting that toe just a little bit. Well, that concludes the video. If you found it helpful, let me know in the comments, and please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Look for other children's wagons videos in the future.